All right, the Rate of Fall 16 looks a lot like the Rate of Fall 12. Now you need to understand that there's very little difference in actual weighting between the 5, the 12, and the 16. I mean, we're talking fractions of an ounce. There's not some huge differential weight-wise between the 5 and the 16. It's the internal harness, it's the internal ballast, if you will, that Ken has designed in the internal harness and components of the 8-inch Huddleston. But let's just talk about where does the 16 make a lot of sense. It's the heaviest of the baits. It'll sink the quickest. So one of the things that I find interesting about the 16 that may not be apparent to some folks is you can fish this bait the fastest. I can burn this bait the absolute quickest without it rolling or turning sideways. Every bait has kind of a critical mass where if you can speed it up to a certain point, but if you go any faster, the bait will turn or roll or it'll take away from the action. The 16 is an excellent burning bait because it's got that extra weight, keeps it running true at the highest speeds. So keep that under your hat. If you're on fish that are eating fast-moving baits, the 16 might be a good call. I've caught the 16 burning shallow floating docks at certain times when their fish are just active. You can move this bait so quick and have it run true, the fish will just kill it. Of course, the other application of the 16 by nature is to fish it in deeper water. You can sink this thing out and get down deeper in a hurry. Now this is what I use to fish, let's say, a big deep dam or some sort of a big man-made piece of structure, bridge pilings or certain things that you need to get down in a hurry or in current. I've actually come across certain situations in the backs of creeks or river arms and things where there's current running and you need a bait that's gonna get down in order to you've got current to deal with. So that's where I find this bait shines. Now honestly, out here in the south, I haven't had a ton of success dragging the bottom. We have a lot of muck on the bottom due to the leaves. The weather out here is just different. I mean, they're just all the leaves come off the trees every year. I mean, I swear there's a layer of leaves on the bottom of these lakes that's that thick, if not thicker. I mean, there's just muck on the bottom, and dragging. There are places where there's more rock and hard bottom, but a lot of these lakes, dragging is not it, and certainly not dragging with any kind of trap hooks on the belly. So I've had some success rigging a trap hook treble to the rear, or just I'll fish the bait just like that with just the top hook until I'm getting bit and I make it an issue. I'm not cutting that top hook off for nothing. Again, I mean no disrespect to Butch. I just don't understand. I don't understand his rigging. I would like to understand it more. But in any event, the 16 is something I have caught some very good fish on. And if I know that the fish are hanging in the, let's say, the 30-foot zone off points or something like that, this will be the go-to bait. Again, you have to be a better Huddleston fisherman to control this bait. This bait has a tendency to want to nose up or nose down a whole lot more than the 12. So bait control and awareness of what your bait is doing in the water is a lot more critical when you're fishing a 16 than say the 12. The 12 has got just the inherent almost neutral buoyancy that it's kind of like dummy proof, foolproof. You can just throw it out and just go easy on your retrieve and the bait's going to swim right and track right. But the 16, you have to be a little bit more conscious of what that bait's doing as it's coming through the water, because it has a tendency to want to, wants to nose down or it wants to sink, track upwards. So you can definitely fish outside deep with this bait, but just be a little bit more careful about how you want to slow down. You want to give the bait time to regroup so that it's actually coming upwards, keeping the bait horizontal versus swimming straight up.